Hey, what's up? This is Leo from the Kairos System, and you're watching the Kairos Collaborative. So if you've spent any time on Twitter, especially if you are in the dissociative identity disorder community, you've probably seen the hashtag get split off Netflix thing that's been trending. And it's largely just been a community effort by people with dissociative identity disorder in hopes of actually raising awareness and getting something to be done so that people listen to systems instead of constantly speaking over us. But people started to, respond with a lot of fucking backlash. I am all down for disagreement. If you don't agree with getting split off of Netflix, that is 110% okay, and I encourage you, especially if you are a system, because those are the opinions that actually matter in all of this, I encourage you to write, your opinion down in the comments to stimulate a discussion, if you're going to be civil. Because we have literally had people try and trigger us by mentioning CSA aspects that they thought might appeal to our trauma in order to, prove some kind of point that there's no fucking stigma going on. Like, that makes any sense. We've gotten a lot of just straight up hostile shit coming from singlets. If you don't know what Split is, it's a movie about a man that has dissociative identity disorder, disputedly might be superpowers. It doesn't fucking matter because it's presented in the trailers, in the movie posters, dissociative identity disorder, 24 personalities. Like, it's meant and portrayed as a depiction of DID. So, like, to all the people sitting here trying to say, it doesn't even claim to represent DID, it does. It does. And systems have been talking about this since 2016 when the film came out. All these people want to act like this push came out of nowhere and, this is just some, snowflake bullshit. Not acknowledging the people that actually brought this to the limelight are systems, are people that are being affected. And y'all are trying to sit there and tell us that, this movie has had no negative effects, despite constant personal testimony. We overheard a conversation with a coworker where they had been talking about a Split movie with someone that they're friends with, and they just go, I just think everyone who has DID needs to be taken out. And you're really gonna sit here and tell me that the film doesn't have negative impacts, that it doesn't lead to people to having assumptions that we're dangerous, that real life systems are genuinely hurt by the shit that this film perpetrates. Because if you honestly think that, you cannot think outside of your own closed-minded box and step into someone else's shoes. You're incapable of that shit. If you're just gonna sit here and just dispute the fact that any harm might be coming out of this movie, you're part of the problem. Like I said, disagreement and debate is fine. Not all systems do agree with the idea of removing Split off of Netflix. One system that we follow, the Valkyrie System, they cover this really well, I think, in a tweet that they made, and I wanted to share it with you guys. They say, in order to promote education over censorship, please make an attempt to switch over to hashtag how Split got it wrong, so as to invite discussion, not vitriol. Some people are going to be angry regardless. Let them be. We want to educate, not alienate. I feel that's a great way of covering this topic and a lot of opinions that other people have. Another system suggests the hashtag Split Movie Hurts, which was what was started in 2016 when this first was an issue, despite people saying that this is just coming out of nowhere. It's not coming out of nowhere, it came out of the DID community, actually by the Sunflower System. They started this tag in a push to get people to start advocating against this film and talking about the negative stigma that it creates. And let's be honest, let's be real honest here, because it's been just over 50 hours since the petition regarding this issue was created, and since 3 articles in English and 1 in French has been published regarding it. The petition has amassed over 1,300 supporters, again, in just 2 days. So, do you honestly think that if the tag wasn't something like get split off of Netflix, something immediately a drastic step, would we be gaining so much attention and some people, very few it seems, but some people actually being educated by this? Would this have happened if it wasn't such a radical leap? That's the thing about radicalism, is it extends the branch, the full stop of what moderates look like. People hearing the systems calling for action to be taken is resulting in people discussing, well, I don't exactly agree with that, but I believe that we can handle this by doing this or that. And in the process, a lot of singlets are becoming educated about the negative effects that media can have, because I know it's fucking fiction, we all know it's fiction, but it still hurts people. I mean, of course, a lot of us want to get Split off of Netflix, and I'm going to be covering a lot of frequently asked questions, comments, concerns that people have in this video about, you know, the actually getting Split off of Netflix aspect of all this, but it's important to recognize that get Split off Netflix as a hashtag is not just that. That being said, we're going to actually get into the, you know, frequently asked questions, the main portion of this video. I would like to iterate that I am one alter in one system. I do not represent the entire DID community. I don't even represent our system's entire opinions. We have different opinions regarding how we think this issue should be handled. But this petition in particular was signed by quite a few members of the community and gained traction very quickly because a lot of people feel this way, and I want to discuss why people feel this way. And again, it's okay if you don't, but it's important to have this discussion in the first place. The first and probably most common and most encapsulating comment that we constantly see is, but it ain't on Netflix. Lol. You realize other countries exist though, right? And these other countries, you know, have other Netflix titles. Like, not everything's about America. I'm sorry to be the one that has to tell you this, but I realize it's trending in the US and that can be confusing, that people care about things that aren't in their own backyard, but we do. We're a community. We're all infected. Worldwide impact. You know, the shit that's going on in France still affects the shit that's going on in the USA. And imagine if we did get this film removed from Netflix in a worldwide effort. Imagine if we did get this film. Imagine what that would do for the DID community, the type of education that would stimulate. Yeah, people are going to be pissed off. People are going to be pissed off anyway. If the same people that are saying, you know, your pain doesn't exist, this experience that you have in relation to this film isn't valid, these people aren't here to fucking listen to what we have to say regarding our experiences. They're gonna be angry no matter what. But there are a lot of people, and I have talked to them, we have been doing a lot of activism and a lot of responding to people's comments, and things are changing. The people we've talked to that have actually changed their mind, that have been open to hearing other people's discussions and are capable of empathy, like, it's so clear with that kind of comment that you just don't know. You don't know how to conceptualize a life outside of your own. Like, not even just fucking DID and what the experience of this film can be having on people with DID. You can't even conceptualize that other fucking countries have different Netflixes. Next comment. Yeah, because we all thought that people with DID crawled on walls and were invincible. Thanks for teaching us. If that's honestly the only stigmatizing, misinformative part of the movie that you can pick out, you are the entire problem. Encapsulated in a little bubble, you are the problem. No one thinks the misconceptions are the superpowers. The misconception is that every single representation of people with DID in the media is violent, is predatory, is murderers, is kidnappers, is harmful. It's very, very harmful to systems and how they interact on an individual basis. If you go through the tag, you can see so many people talking about the experiences that they have had that Split has caused in our lives. It's not a debate whether or not these things are affecting us. They are affecting us. The debate is whether or not y'all care. Yeah, no, we all know y'all don't think we got superpowers, but you guys do think that we're fucking dangerous, that we're unable to control aspects of our own system, that we're unable to operate and function properly within society without being a harm to others. That's what y'all think. That is the stigma that we're trying to erase. That is the stigma that films like Split, that are some of, if not the only representation people actually see, because y'all only care about systems if it's given to you on a sensationalized, romanticized platter. You don't care about us when it's educational content, when it's us sharing our stories of healing. If you did, fuck it, you can have your Split, but you don't. You don't care about us. You do not. This is the only experience you have with us. And yeah, someone who's never heard about what DID is before in their life aren't going to be able to, you know the lines between facts and fiction. Yeah, when it's obviously fucking fantastical like that, sure. But that's not what we're talking about. And if you think that is, if that's all you can see that's wrong with this film, you need to educate yourself. This video is gonna be really angry, but I have dealt with so much shit in the last 24 hours. I don't understand the lack of empathy. I really don't. Because I know how hard it can be to realize that there are issues that you aren't faced with in this world. But you still gotta do some shit about it. You can't just sit there and say, nope, don't exist, not my problem, not in my backyard. It gets me going, I can't. And then there's this. Why? Why is everyone so sensitive? Why does everything have to be politically correct? This is absolute nonsense. If we ban every single thing that potentially offends an oppressed community group, we would have nothing left, first off. It says a lot about the kind of media you consume. Yeah, things are problematic. But when the entire basis of the film or media you are watching is this person has this that they cannot change about themselves, and it makes them do something uncontrollable, wrong, immoral, and you pair that with the lack of education about DID, and don't sit here and tell us that we need to educate more. Because this fucking channel, other DID channels, the DID community in large, we are on social media talking about our experiences, and you know what we get? Stigma. We get people telling us that our disorder isn't real. We get people telling us that we have evil alters and we need to be controlled. I'm going to read you a comment that shows just how bad the stigma is. People don't listen to us. And it's because not of the actions of real systems, of the majority of systems in this world, is because of what films like Split perpetrate about us. And you can call us sensitive. You can call us sensitive for not wanting to be feared in society, for not wanting to have the only representation, the sole representation, especially sponsored by a private entity. Because with this petition, we are simply asking that a private entity does not sponsor marginalization of an already misunderstood community, does not continue to monetize off of a film that perpetrates people with DID as being some sort of thing to be feared. And I've seen the movie. Don't sit here and tell me you haven't even watched it, you don't know what it's about, he really has I don't give a fuck. I do not care that the movie tries to perpetrate that it's a trilogy. I haven't seen Unbreakable, I haven't seen Glass. It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter, because when I tell people I have DID, I get, oh, do you have a beast altar? Are you gonna hurt me? If I make you upset, am I gonna be safe? It makes it so hard to come out and share our stories, to talk about what we've been through. Go watch some of the videos. Go watch the last 2 videos that Bodhi's made. I'll link them in the description. All about how communication and relationships and talking about what you've been through is key. Is key to healing from trauma. It's so important. But you guys don't listen. When we share on social media, when we share on YouTube, when we talk about our real life experiences, it's not entertaining enough for you. It's not sensationalized, it's not romanticized, it's not dramatic enough. Your need to consume things that are so traumatized and marginalizing and harmful to people that aren't you is what the societal outlook of who people with DID are. That's what hurts us. That's what causes the stigma. It's not just Split, but it's films like Split. It's films that perpetrate this media. It's this idea in a whole. I get it. It's fantastical. It's fun to learn about. It's interesting. Whatever. It's a trauma disorder that real people suffer with. Why do we find it so easy to dehumanize other people? Why do we find it so easy to discriminate, to marginalize? Watch Sterling's last video on that. All this shit that we're talking about links together because our experiences link together. As humans, our experiences link together. Are people running out of things to cancel now? What about cancel the media and all YouTubers making fun of autism? Why is a fictional movie about a guy with schizophrenia the final straw on mental health treatment? First off, it's not fucking schizophrenia. But, besides the fact that you know nothing, yeah, we need to cancel problematic media that rides off of stereotypes, that rides off of harming and stigmatizing communities. You will hear the autistic community talking about things like atypical, talking about things like autism speaks. You will hear the autistic community canceling, if you want to fucking call it that, and it's not cancel culture when it's providing better resources and better representation for marginalized communities. It's not cancel culture, it's called decency. Yeah, our community, this push is not the only one. I don't believe we should be making films about people with schizophrenia, about people with bipolar disorder, about people with OCD, about people with DID, about people with any mental health issue or developmental disorder or physical disability, and solely perpetrating that as a bad guy. If you really don't think that representation matters, I recommend you go watch the Disclosure documentary that was recently pushed out by Netflix that talks about the influence that media has had on how we perceive transgender people. Because that shit matters. You know, look at the Jaws effect. The fucking sharks started being killed at a higher rate after the release of the Jaws movie because of the fear of sharks, blah, blah, blah. Media influences people. Look at how LGBT people have been represented in the past. Always villains. Because in media, we were told you cannot show this unhealthy lifestyle, whatever the fuck, on film. So, you know, then you had to use, you know, LGBT coding in films to secretly indicate queer characters. A lot of this coding was based off of stereotypes. And a lot of those stereotypes were only applied to villains because if you apply it to a good character, it seems like you're endorsing that lifestyle. You have to make sure that people don't approve of it. And so you have the villainization of queer people, which of course influence how queer people were viewed by people who don't know LGBT people. You have how media has been perpetrating people of color as villains in a lot of media, fucking Disney. This shit impacts people. It impacts people. When you don't have a lot of experience with a minority group, when you are uneducated, it hurts real communities. Or maybe stop trying to censor artists because their art offends you. For calling M. Night Shyamalan an artist is a fucking stretch. By far. His writing sucks. His movies suck. Besides the point, but please, art. If something or someone bothers me, I just avoid it / them altogether. We don't get to avoid it. It's in every single interaction that we have on a face-to-face basis coming out about having dissociative identity disorder. It impacts us. If you look at Multiplicity and Me, they recently tweeted about how every single media that they've been involved in, every time they've tried to educate and outreach, they've gotten fucking, you know, Patricia gifts or fucking comments about, you know, things like what is perpetrated by Split. We don't get to just ignore it. You might get to just ignore it if you are in a privileged position, if you're an Anglo-Saxon, cis, white, male, Protestant, whatever the fuck. You get to perpetrate that idea. You get to perpetrate the idea that I can just ignore it. The rest of us have societal stigmas, societal impacts, societal views that impact individual interactions. People are always like, you know, if people look at Split and they see it as being a realistic indication of DID, that's on them. No, it's on us. It's on systems. It's on people with DID. It hurts us, not them, not you, us. So listen to us. When we tell you about our stories, don't just fucking speak over us like y'all have been doing in the tag. It's a fictional film. No shit. As if fiction doesn't impact our life. If they remove every film that someone could turn into a movement, what would be left? Again, says a lot about the media you consume. People stop trying to fit into a mental space that isn't meant for you, and you won't be offended. Kidnap victims have a case. DID not so much. That's laughable. The entire fucking film is about DID. It doesn't perpetrate kidnap victims. Like those girls that got kidnapped, they weren't portrayed in any negative light. Just the implication that there's no case here for people with DID. Again, is gaslighting the experiences many people with DID have had because of this film. Just shut your mouth for 1 minute. Go through the tag. Read what people are saying. Read the experiences we are voicing. Because people just see this shit pop up on trending. And they're like, time to respond. Time for me to put my 2 cents in. Time for me to not pay any attention to white people. Cancel culture. It's like you're not even trying to understand where we're coming from with this. It's like you don't care. These are the kind of people we don't need to waste our time with. Real life equals boring shit. Movies equal crazy shit happens. Dude, don't fucking condescend to me. This was not intended to be an educational documentary on mental illness. It is entertainment. It doesn't matter what the intention of the film was to be. M. Night Shyamalan in many interviews was holding his film up for being not necessarily positive, but an accurate representation, an informed representation of what DID is. He refused to even make a public statement outside of the movie that this is a fantastical representation, that it does not show DID, that it is just a movie. And when you cover such a stigmatized issue like this, such a minority group issue, you need to listen to that group. He refused to interview people with DID. He refused to listen to the voices, to the petition that was started. No action was taken. Shyamalan did nothing to perpetrate the idea that this isn't a representation. And again, if you look in the description of the movie, you will see it is not described as a superhero film. Of course, that's the Shyamalan twist. And it is held up as a representation of DID. Even if it wasn't, even if they never mentioned this guy had DID in the film, the fact that enough people connected with DID that people who actually have the disorder are being affected on an individual basis regarding this film should tell you that the impact is real, should tell you that there is a reason people are responding, asking for this film to be removed. Regardless of if you think that this is a censorship issue, that it isn't acceptable in our society, the fact that that's all you're thinking about is that you won't be able to watch a movie on Netflix, and you're not thinking about, why is this community responding in this way? Says a lot about you. Says a lot about your priorities, and says a lot about your empathy. Why didn't you do this petition when the film came out? Stop being offended by everything, you bunch of fragile heads. I'm guessing James Bond is next on the agenda. I don't know what's problematic about James Bond. If anybody wants to let me know, leave a comment. I'm actually kind of curious, but I'm not going to look it up because I don't give a fuck. Because James Bond is perpetrated with having positive qualities. You know who is it? Kevin and the fucking Horde. They are perpetrated as kidnappers, as murderers, as fucking predators, because all of those girls in that film's underage, and is, on top of that, a cannibal. So, and it all feeds into the evil, alter, persecutor aspect of the stigma behind DID. That common aspect of one of your alters is gonna hurt me, you have no control over anything that happens in your system. Like, anyone wants to hurt you. Like, people with DID aren't so much more likely to be, you know, either harmful toward themselves or to be harmed by others and re-victimized by society than to be a threat. And you know, not to mention, split movie hurts. There was a petition in 2016. The community did talk and educate and inform. You know what y'all didn't do? Listen to anything they had to say. Notice that we were speaking out about the film because you were too obsessed with the new Shyamalan movie, with the next Shyamalan twist would be how great this fucking film is. We did do a petition. We did educate. We did inform. We were outraged. We've continued to be hurt. We've continued to be outraged since before the film even came out. There was hope. A lot of people had hope that there would be some redeeming qualities about it, but all it did was include just enough factual, accurate information that all of that infactualness, all of that harmful aspects, all of the persecutors will kill people aspects seems that much more likely. That contributes so much to the problem. Get split off Netflix. What a bunch of children. Y'all want everything banned because you're insecure about yourself. Get off Twitter, you won't last here or in the real world. These types of comments play into the idea of, you know, snowflake sensitivity bullshit. First off, realize who the fuck you're talking to. You're talking to the DID community. You're talking to trauma survivors, criticizing them for being traumatized and showing trauma symptoms. You're an asshole. Beyond that, people aren't sensitive for not wanting to be constantly perpetrated in Hollywood as being a certain kind of person, as being a threat to society. Because if you do not have DID, you do not know what it is like. You do not know how people view us. You do not know how our friends and family ostracize us once they find out about our disorder just on the basis of the stigma created by media. Do not say media does not create stigma, because it does. Do not say fiction does not impact, influence, and damage real world people, because it does. Next comment. We got 2 more left. Hold on there. Focus on real shit like Black Lives Matter. Vote and stop bullshitting over this soft shit like get split off Netflix. You should be ashamed of yourself. The only one I'm gonna concede even slightly to. I've noticed that in this post, in this push to get split off Netflix, there's been a lot less Black Lives Matter posts from the DID community. And if you're not a part of the DID community, you might not know that people in our community have been especially active in the activism with Black Lives Matter because of the experiences of trauma and how that influences people's response and how they perceive the world. And I've noticed a lot of that's toned down since this has picked up. And I want to say, you know, it's fine to add additional content, but there's no reason that one push, I'm not going to call it a movement, one push should speak over another movement, should speak over another push, for lack of better words, because they're not even comparable. Like, getting a film off of Netflix is not the same as the Black Lives Matter movement. And caring about both at the same time, it's possible. You don't just have to be active or be an activist for one issue. You can care about multiple things. I don't know why that's hard for people to conceptualize. But this person is correct in that some of these issues, not that this issue isn't important, not that we should not be speaking about this, because we should, because especially in the current political climate of reform, we should be asking ourselves, how does media representation impact minority communities? Not just in relation to this film at all, in relation to the greater aspect of how people that are not the majority, that do not fall into the power class, that do not identify with the oppressor, how those people are influenced by the perception that those who do fit within that have of us. It is important that we have this kind of discussion, that we realize how discrimination, how marginalization connect in communities. Ableism is an issue. Ableism kills people, but racism is in the foundation of every single aspect of our society. And as a community, we need to be mindful that we're not presenting ourselves having a system of oppression pushing down on us. Because yes, individually we are discriminated against, individually we are oppressed, but we need to be careful that we're not speaking over other movements that are simultaneously happening. We need to be careful that we're not comparing the severity of these issues, especially because this isn't a movement to eradicate all misinformation about DID. That is part of it, but we're talking about removing a film from a streaming platform at the core root, at the simplest form. That's what we're talking about, and it's not comparable. And again, we need to be mindful that we're not, we're adding post, not taking away from the movements we were a part of before. Diversifying your activism. Don't just focus on one thing. It's not just about one thing. It's all core root. There is a shared oppressor here. And now, this person has said something pretty concerning, and if you would like to block them, you as a system person, or you as someone who supports this tag, I highly recommend it. Thinking of following the people who really believe in this hashtag for some amazing boredom fillers. It's been a blast so far, but the mentally ill shouldn't be allowed on social media, and worsens their symptoms. Although what they post is funny, it's sad as fuck. These are coming from the same people who are trying to tell us that this movie doesn't create stigma. They're trying to tell us that the stigma doesn't exist. The same people perpetrating this idea that we're somehow incapable, that we're somehow not able to properly represent ourselves, that this is funny, that this is sad. You don't have empathy for us. So when you say it's sad, you mean it's disturbing. Why do you think that? Because you're uneducated. Because the only source of information you have about systems comes from stigma. This just is disgusting. The fact that you're planning on infiltrating the community on top of that to make fun of trauma survivors, even more so. So that's all the comments that I really wanted to cover, but I want to talk about what we can actually do to help this issue and to, properly push to make change. If you're not for the actually removing Split off of Netflix, the main thing you can do is educate or lift up voices in the community and try and share what it's like for people to actually experience this and try and, diversify the information that is currently out on Split, because at the core root, that's what we're trying to do, and that's the most important part of this. If nothing else, you need to be educating. No matter what your stance is on this, no matter what you believe, if you're perpetrating ideas of stigma, you're only disproving yourself. Also on that same, strain of education, if you are a singlet that's looking to be educated about this, we have recently become part of a group chat that specifically is targeted at educating singlets. So if you are a singlet or a person without DID who would like to be more informed about what people with DID deal with, then you can check that out. Again, I'll link it in the description. Now, if you are in support of getting Netflix actually to remove Split as a title internationally, the main thing you can do is, flood the algorithm currently with the hashtag get Split off Netflix on all the social medias. Even Googling it will help to, boost the algorithm, will help to boost the petition results. When people are looking into Split, it will show the concerning misinformation that this movie actually has. So any algorithm boost, if you are in a country that has Split on Netflix, messing with the algorithm by, downvoting as you truly, hopefully feel, that will also help to, show Netflix how people currently feel on this issue. You can sign the petition that we started, which again will be linked down below, to help, show Netflix that there's people that support this issue, that want to see action be taken, either a disclaimer to be included, in the description of the Netflix title, or actually having it removed. Contacts, if you know anyone with a large platform, or if you just want to write a letter, an email, or something to Netflix specifically, that would also help in, getting the word out and actually getting people to support instead of just automatically responding with, this is censorship. So yeah, that's everything that I had to talk about. Regardless of if you agree or disagree, your opinions are welcome below, as long as you're not going to be hostile about it like a lot of the comments we just went through. Thanks everyone for giving me your time, and make sure that you listen to what the community has to say and actually go through the tag instead of just voicing your opinion with absolutely no information behind it. Awesome.